If you've been playing Tekken 8 recently, you've definitely been seeing this guy, which means you've unfortunately been dealing with this, and, oh god, this. Being one of 3 newcomers joining the series with Tekken 8's release, Victor Chevalier was initially met with an insane amount of hype with his reveal trailer in November of 2023. People praised just about everything about him. His character design, his moveset, his awesome looking weapons, and of course the huge news that he would be voiced by the French actor. Hold up, let me get my French voice ready. Vincent Cassel. There were some small initial concerns about some of his moves looking just a little bit too similar to Noctis, a character from Tekken 7, who was notoriously hated, but overall reception was very positive. So why is it now that Victor seems to be incredibly hated by the larger Tekken community? I decided to investigate, and after extensive research and playing a ton of high-level Victor, I think I found the answer. So let's get into it. First impressions are important, especially in online games with large communities, and I think we can all agree that the first impression of Victor when we actually got our hands on the game was pretty rough. He initially launched with a bugged grab that was almost impossible to break on reaction, and if we're being honest, this bug stayed in the game way longer than it should have. This should have been fixed in the very first patch. I don't know why we had to wait longer than that. He was also incredibly popular when the game first launched, being the 3rd most played character for the first few weeks. And that, combined with almost every Tekken content creator shitting on the character and immediately calling him super cheap and brain dead, turned Victor into one of the core boogeymen of this game. Despite this, nowadays he's considered a solid A tier. Definitely very annoying to fight, but there are honestly a lot of characters who are way better and way more annoying. So where did all this complaining about the character come from? And why was everyone playing him when the game first launched? Well, to answer this question, we need to take a look at his moveset. Right off the bat, this character had a lot going for him. Huge range on his attacks, tons of weapon attacks that can't be parried unless you're this guy, and a bunch of wacky stances and weird setups that served as incredible noob checks. Which is also why Victor had a very high win rate at the beginning of the game. It didn't take long for people to find some pretty insane moves in his kit. So let's start by looking at one of his defining attacks in this game, being his back 1+2. This move destroys people in low to mid level. It's an incredibly fast, safe, power crush, heat engager with ridiculous range that does chip damage and wall splats. Yeah, that's a lot of traits for just one move. Power Crush moves have always been strong since their introduction in Tekken 7, but here in Tekken 8, many high Power Crush moves have also become heat engagers, and if you ask me, this is generally a bad decision. Power Crush heat engagers should be at least a little bit more risky than normal ones, maybe -10 or so on block, just so a little bit more thought would have to be used when using these moves. But they're highs, right? Just duck and launch. Well, this is the problem with Victor's back 1+2. It comes out at 15 frames, so it's already decently hard to duck, but when you factor in the move's huge range, and seriously, look at this range, and very fast recovery time, it becomes super difficult to punish this move, even if you do duck it. Its startup is also ridiculous. 15 frames is way too fast for a move that does this much, and if you watch the average Victor player, they know exactly how broken this move is, and get huge mileage abusing it. This move just does everything, and it factors into a lot of his flowcharts and setups, which we'll be discussing later. But what other insanely strong and annoying moves does Victor have? In my opinion, this next move we're about to talk about is the biggest problem in his moveset, and his strongest move by far. His while running 2. This move is just unfair. It has huge range, it's +5 on block, it does a lot of chip damage, and is very difficult to sidestep, and is also a counter hit launcher. Saying this move controls the neutral is an understatement, and the +5 it gives on block sets up some insane frame traps and flowcharts. Who am I kidding? They all just spam immediate back 1+2 after hitting it. Or their safe 1+2 counter hit launcher that actually trades with jabs in this interaction, giving a guaranteed launch. I think this while running 2 is simply too oppressive, and desperately needs to be toned down. There's no reason for a move like this to have this much tracking. It just becomes one of the most spammy moves in the game. And to round out the trifecta of Victor's most annoying moves, you already know what's coming next. What else can I say about this move that hasn't been said already? Honestly, not much. His up 1+2 in heat is ridiculous. It's super safe on block, does over 50 damage on hit, and is arguably one of the most evasive moves in the game. He literally disappears in the animation. This move does 24 damage on chip, and is very hard to avoid. If you predict his exact timing, you can sidewalk this right, but you have to commit to it. If you stop the sidewalk at any point during the animation because you think you're out of the blast radius, you just got hit and took 50 damage. If you think you're far enough away from him and are out of range, you just got hit by the move and took 50 damage. And if he lands a heat engager and you just decide to block, he's able to do 3 of these attacks before he runs out of heat, doing over 70 damage in chip. This is pretty ridiculous. Sorry to interrupt the video really quick, but if you guys are enjoying this video and want to support more scripted Tekken 8 content, as well as my dreams to hopefully one day do this as a job, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's free to do, and you can always change your mind later. It really goes a super long way, as only about 11% of my viewers are actually subscribed. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. He's one of those characters where it feels like you just have to stand still all the time, with his while running 2, and when he's in heat, his up 1+2, and just eat the chip damage. And honestly, even though these 3 moves are seen as his worst offenders, there's tons of other stuff that just makes him really frustrating to fight against. I mentioned earlier, but he has huge range on a bunch of his key tools, and this sets up a bunch of his setups so well. Take a move like his forward 2, a normal hit launcher with huge range that, while being -16 on block, has such big pushback that a lot of characters aren't even able to punish it. And if you do try and punish it, you're going to eat the back 1+2 that they always use when they think you're going to press. Seriously, this forward 2 is way too strong. He also has a ton of stance pressure and gimmicks that you really need to lab out to properly beat, and in the Tekken community, that never helps when it comes to hating a character. Victor is a perfect example of why you don't need to be a top-tier broken character to be hated by the community. When you get down to it, there's a ton of characters who are way better and more oppressive. Victor has pretty weak lows, and a lot of his string pressure are either highs that are ducked or have some other clear counterplay or option select that, once you take the time to lab and get to know it, is pretty easy to beat. But I think it's the combination of the gimmicks and these oppressive moves that I mentioned earlier that just makes everyone hate fighting him. If it was just a pure matchup check, he'd be garbage, and people would just learn these simple gimmicks and beat him easily. But like another character in the game, that being Alisa, these 2 characters have the perfect combination of oppressive moves with little to no counterplay and gimmicks that you need to learn. So people just end up losing motivation and writing the character off as cheap and unfair, instead of actually learning what they can do. Because even though these characters are very oppressive, there are stuff you can do and should learn if you want to have a better chance against them. Another thing to mention about why people hate this character so much is his difficulty. It seems like most Tekken players are more forgiving about a character having broken moves and attributes when they're difficult to play. Characters like Zhao Yu, Yoshimitsu, and Hwoarang immediately come to mind. But Victor being so simple to play and pilot pretty much means that anyone can pick him up and play with a decently high level of efficiency, compared to other characters who need way more time and practice to start cheesing people. With all this being said, Victor is in a rough spot, and with the upcoming patch in June most likely nerfing him, I do think his play rate is going to drop a significant amount, as more people move to other easy options who are just stronger. But in all honesty, I'm rooting for Victor. Even though he has some stuff that I definitely don't agree with, I really do love his character design, and see a ton of potential in him in future seasons when they decide to add some more moves and tone him down more. Hopefully they can really hone his identity in the future. And hopefully with more time and nerfs, his negative reputation will ease up a little bit. But who am I kidding? The Tekken community never forgets. So maybe Victor is doomed to be hated forever. But if you're a Victor loyalist and love the character despite it all, you have my respect. Keep doing you. Anyway, that's about all I have for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think about this character. Do you disagree and think he's a perfectly designed character? Or do you agree with the hate and think it's all super justified? Let me know. I'll be down there chatting with you guys as always. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel. It's honestly such a huge help, and it helps me know that you guys want to see more scripted content like this. Also, a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. Thank you guys so much. Your support really means the world to me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Take it easy.